Bim bam, bim biddy bam, bim biddy bim bim bam.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. We are delighted you're with us tonight. Thank you. Today is October 22nd, 2021. It's also the 16th of Shevan of 5782, as I recall. Before we get into this evening's program, I would like to make a public service announcement. If you have any onions at home, throw them out. 37 states are dealing with salmonella poisoning from onions. I know from whence I speak, as I am one of the thousands of Americans who have enjoyed salmonella poisoning in the past week. So I encourage you all to take my advice. It's really not as much fun as it sounds. I definitely want to thank Frank for being here this evening. Frank Monteleone and I have been playing for a very long time together. And Bobby cannot be here this evening, and Jim and Heather can't be here this evening. But my wife Jeannie is here this evening, and so she will be joining me as she did during the High Holy Day services. And with that, I would very much like to thank Judy Kern, our president, and everything. There's just whatever. Yes, just a Jill of all trades. And I definitely want to thank Denise Whitlock. And I have a different way of thanking you this evening, Denise. And I hope you will please join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Denise. Happy birthday to you. Well, we'll see if the feed doesn't get cut tonight. Folks, if you're here in the sanctuary, would you please reach for one of these that might belong to you and shut it off? Or at least put it on silent or D minor. You have three choices. My name is Barry Nicholsberg, and I have the honor of being the cantorial soloist here at Temple Beth David. We are a proud member of the Union of Reformed Judaism, and we're based here in Snellville, Georgia, which is part of Metro Atlanta. I think South Carolina is part of Metro Atlanta at this point. As we get started with this evening's service, I would like to remind everyone that this is a participatory service, and we hope you will join in. Also, if you would like to join our Shabbat band, I encourage you, please, to do so. Whether it is you just sing, or you play an instrument, or you do both, we would love to have you here. Where was I last Shabbat? Where was I physically and spiritually? Was I rushed, or did I savor the coming of Shabbat? What's happened in the past 6 days? They go so quickly, I can hardly take notice. What kind of person was I this week? Was I thoughtful, superficial, preoccupied, appreciative? Did I laugh, cry? Did I tell anyone how much I love him or her? Did I use my week well? And what does that even mean? What lessons will I take with me into the future? As I enter Shabbat tonight, I release the past week, its joys and its sorrows. I free myself from any misgivings or guilt. I am ready to look for new happiness and bring the best of me to new experiences during the week to come. Something to think about. I would like to ask our board president, who's already there, yet again one step ahead of me, to please light the Shabbat candles. You can read along on page 121.
Yes, on the top of page 121. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. This is an extra special treat for me. Although Jeannie and I have sung together, there's always been someone else singing with her. So tonight is the first night we're doing a duet. I like that. If you would please, let's see. Page 138 is Lecha Dodi. I would encourage you to join in as you can. You've heard this tune repeatedly, so I trust you know it. Let's give it a try. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, Elepnei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, Elepnei Shabbat Nikabela la 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 Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, Elepnei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, Elepnei Shabbat Nikabela. Shamor v'zachor v'riporecha, Hishmiyanu el hamichad Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemu tiferet la 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 Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, V'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, V'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Hitoreri, Niva Orech Uri 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 Shir Daberi, Kivot Arnai Alayich Li la 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 Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, V'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Lecha Dodi, Likrat Likrat Kalna, V'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Please rise and face the door we came in. At least rise spiritually. If you cannot rise physically, let us greet the Sabbath bride. Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha utzola, tochem oneam sigola. Bohi chala, la 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 Lecha Dodi, Likrat לקראת כלה, הנה פני שבת מקבלה, לכל אחד הדין לקראת כלה, הנה פני שבת מקבלה. Thank you. Please be seated. Since Bobby cannot be here this evening, I will take on the Chatzi Kaddish, which I believe you can find on page 144. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah Bi'alma divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchotei b'chayecha v'yamecha ufchaye dechol beit Yisrael bagala uvizman karif v'imaro amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach li'alamu al mehomaya yitborach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithada v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha parechu le'elamim kol bechata v'shirata tosh bechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imaro amen. Would you please turn to page 146 and rise for the call to worship, the Baruch. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai Before you sit down, oh no, you actually can sit down. I'm doing the Via Haftarah next. Okay. Please be seated. Oh no, I'm not. We're doing the Shema. I thought this solo act is not doing very well tonight, but we're going to give it a go. On page 152, please rise physically and or spiritually for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivot Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivot Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai you'll please turn to page 154, you can either follow along or join me in the chanting of the V'ahavta. For those not truly familiar with this is straight out of the Torah, and the cantation for this is different from any other song I will sing or chant this evening, as this is the trope that's in the Torah. This particular piece has been sung exactly this way for more than 3,000 years. And I trust as we pass our heritage on to the next generation and the generation after that, it will continue for the next 3,000 years. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'adecha v'hayo hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibata bam b'shivtecha b'vetecha uv'leftecha b'derech ub'shovtecha uv'kumecha ukshatam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu tatafot ben einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. At the bottom of page 154, I ask you please, in reading the translation with me of the piece I just chanted, V'ahavta. And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you go away. When you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember and observe all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Bill. Are you joining us? Okie doke. So Bill Kern has now joined the party for this evening. We are delighted you're here. We are going to go straight to the Hashki Venu this evening. So, Bill, if you're ready for that. Okay, hang on a second, Frank. Let me wet my whistle. I have one more piece of advice, not just about onions. If you find yourself in Santa Fe, New Mexico for a week and you don't have chapstick, it's not a good idea. Ashkivenu Adonai Elohim Shalom Shalom V'Hamitim wrong from right. Amen. Amen. Bill Kern, thank you ever so much for coming here this evening. We appreciate it. The problem was that he didn't know he was coming here 30 minutes ago, and so he's doing the very best anybody could possibly do to keep up with this. We'd like to do Yismechu next. You have the music for it? Great. It's like flying without a net. Oh, page 162. Thank you, Judy. Yismechu b'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat Omek Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat Omek Shabbat Mikadeshei Shevi Shabbat Yisbeho V'yit'aku mitu b'chashavat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat Uvashri Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat Chemtot Yamim Oto karata Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat Zecher Lema'aseh v'reishi Shabbat Zecher Lema'aseh v'reishi Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat Yismechu b'malechutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'korei Omek Shabbat. David Baker, if you're out there listening, that one was for you. We do take requests, we don't necessarily play them, but we do take them. With that, I would ask you please to turn to page 164 and rise for the tefillah. Anananananana Adonai Anananananana Satai Tita Anananananana Ufiyagi Tahilatecha Anananananana Adonai Anananananana Satai Tita Anananananana Ufiyagi Tahilatecha Anananananana Adonai Anananananana Satai Tita Ananananana Ufiyagi ופי תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומגולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומשיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ביצרת שרה. Page 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הקל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומף נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר עשורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומדו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיע מתשועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 170. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל HaKadosh. Please be seated. All right. Wendy Fine, would you like to come up and read on page 255 on this holy Shabbat? We're all flying by the seat of our pants tonight. You should not be any different. Need.
On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worthy in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess, and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'ot lecha b'riah na'avod.
Amen. Toda rabah. She actually doesn't need the help coming down off the beam. I just like to hold her hand. Oh, sorry, honey, I didn't see you standing right here. Our worlds are busy and noisy. traffic jams, horns blaring, cell phones ringing, text messages buzzing. Too often we hear without listening. Let's take a moment to embrace the gift that only the quiet in this sanctuary and in our own minds can deliver. I invite you to join me in praying silently. Va'ani tefilati l'cha Adonai et ratzon. This is for you, Benjamin. Glad you're here tonight with us. Va'ani tefilati l'cha Adonai et ratzon. Elohim berov chastecha aneni pamet ishecha. Elohim berov chastecha aneni pamet ishecha. Va'ani, please join us. You've heard it lots now. Va'ani tefilati l'cha Adonai et ratzon. Va'ani tefilati l'cha Adonai et ratzon. Elohim berov chastecha aneni pamet ishecha. Elohim berov chastecha aneni pamet Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. Matovu Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Would you please turn to page 371? And we would like to know who you would like to pray for this evening for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. Judy, I'll turn to you and ask for those names.
Irene Namer, Andrew St. Clair, Haley Silverman, Sam Namer, David Silverman, Emily Holler, Rebecca Hilgendorf, Margreta McCarthy, Patty Beeman, Donna Kerhanowitz, Irene Namer, Sam Namer, Dawn St. Clair, Lainey Roan, all those affected by COVID-19, Paige Johnson, Tanya Hurst, Karen Fulbright, Eddie Young, Sandy Tejan, Lisa Miller, Michael Lowry, Linda Aaron Saft, Marcy Schulman, Joe Wagner, Sherry Silver, Barbara Frank, Dennis Sadler, Lisa Ann Gaston, Shannon Pointer, Ellie Freed, Morrison Felice Friedman, Rabbi Blooming, Sarah Gambrell, Peter Yarrow, Sandy Steinberger, Morrison Felice Friedman, Jovita Moore, Rabbi Kersner, Bobby Ginsberg, Irv Zisselman, Katie Fink, Monnier family, Rosa Dubois, J.J. Roche, Cameron Turner.
Thank you. Denise, do you have anyone you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Frank?
Nick and Connie Spinelli, Dylan Jasmine Milligan, Nicole Bravante, Catherine Seidel, Jim Wade, and Rabbi Fred Nadler.
Thank you. Bill? Jeannie? Okay. Barbara? Barbara? Thank you. You've got to stop sitting next to each other. It's impossible. Paula? Thank you. Wendy? Okay. I would like to add Kenny Woodruff, Shelley Perkle, Joanne Schoen, Nancy Galbraith, Robin Van Loo, Heather Murray, Linda Nelson, Margaret Pennington, Joanne Stein, Julia Hampton, Kevin Middleton, Brenda Gibson, Mickey D'Amato, Peter Yarrow, Anya Polara, Ben DeSalvo, Marilyn Thorpe, Megumi Allen, Marie Plakos, Esther Borg. I would also like us please to pray for the health and safety of Kevin Mendez, who is here this evening with us, helping to keep us safe. And finally, I pray for all those who have been affected by COVID-19, which at this point I think is all of us. Misha Berach, page 371. Misha Berach, Avoteinu, Mikor HaBrecha, Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yishev Berach Imoteinu, Mikor HaBrecha, Liavoteinu. Bless those in need of living with refuah shlema,
The renewal of body, the renewal
of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Thank you for joining us on that. So this is the part where I talk about the Devar. Our Parsha this evening just picks up where we were last weekend. It was pretty spicy last week. It's still pretty spicy. We're sort of on a roll. But I have decided to look at a different aspect of this week's Parsha. It's impossible to stand here in 8 to 10 minutes and give you the whole Parsha. And so we have to pull pieces. This is the part we are all familiar with it. God and Abraham have a conversation about God's plan to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Actually, Abraham is trying to teach something to God. He's trying to give God a lesson in how to strike the proper balance between justice and mercy. A lesson as important for us as it is for God. I will admit that while I have studied a few other religions, I am still amazed at our ability as Jews. Not only do we argue with God, we're expected to argue with God. It started with Abraham. It's who we are. It's in our DNA. I always know when a convert has really accepted Judaism, because I hear that person arguing with God. Welcome to the club. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we were studying about Noah and the flood. You may or may not know that as the seas receded, God said, "Never again will I doom the earth because of man, since the devisings of man's mind, are evil from his youth." I would have to argue with that as well, but we'll go with it. God, apparently, in that sentence, has actually learned to overcome a natural instinct for acting in accordance with strict justice. You obey me, you are rewarded. You disobey me, you are destroyed. Is there some sort of middle ground? Abraham thinks so. Thanks to Abraham, God recognizes that to destroy Sodom outright would be to ignore the lesson of the flood, namely that justice must be tempered by a realistic expectation of humanity's mortal capabilities. God checks, he holds back the divine tendency for strict justice by consulting with a human being. Let's think about the history for a moment. God banished Adam and Eve and shut Noah in an ark without ever asking their opinion or excluding humanity from the garden or the flooding from the earth. But Abraham is different. The prophets suggest that Abraham was so beloved by God that he actually sought his opinion about destroying Sodom. Unlike the banishment from Eden, in which Adam was given no say, or the flood, where Noah was informed but not consulted, this time, God is not prepared to destroy unilaterally without first taking counsel from a human being. That's a huge step. God's already had a history with mankind. You're banished, you're flooded, you're destroyed, you didn't follow the rules, done. When I was studying this week, it occurred to me that we have a lot to learn from this. We tend to act. We think something is right, and so we act on it. I'm the first to admit I'm guilty as charged. Abraham says the following to God: "It would be a desecration for you to destroy the innocent along with the guilty. You can't destroy Sodom or Gomorrah because several of them are immoral, because you may also be destroying the innocent. Will the judge of all the earth not do justice? This is a quote from the Torah, spoken by Abraham to God. After the flood, God said, again, straight from the Torah, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Abraham says to God, a flood of water you won't bring, but a flood of fire you will bring? Abraham says, look, let's negotiate this. If I can find 50 righteous people in Sodom, will you save the city? And God said, okay. I remember in the Scopes monkey trials, once that it was established that the first day was still in darkness, it was possible that it lasted 25 hours and not 24. Possibility. And so, if it could last 25 hours, it could last 25 million years. And Abraham takes that chance. And he says to God, okay, if I can't find 50, if I can find 40, would that be enough? God said, okay. So he pushed a little further. How about 30? God said, okay, let's go. How about 20? How about 10? And God said, okay, but that's it. I'm not going any further. But Abraham really felt that he could take, he knew he could take 10 because his daughters were there, their husbands were there, his unmarried daughters were there. And Lot and his wife. The problem was that when Abraham turned to Lot and his sons, the sons said, "I'm not leaving this place. This is cool. We get to do kind of whatever we want, and there are no repercussions." And Abraham said, please leave with me, please. And their wives did. Lot did. Lot's wife did. There weren't 10. But of course, as we know, God instructed those leaving to not look back. If you look back, you will be destroyed. They left the city, and they could hear the screaming of people in abject horror and pain. They could smell it. They could feel the heat. And Lot's wife decided she would just take one little peek. And with that, she turned to a pillar of salt. We all have moments when we are so convinced that we are in the right, that we are unwilling to tolerate any deviation from our sense of judgment. Let us remember in those moments that no one can be right all the time while living in this world with other people. Even God, judge of all the earth, ultimately learns through interacting with humanity to season justice with mercy. Having said all of that, I want to look at a different parsha, a different part of this parsha. Abraham was in his tent immediately after he circumcised himself, which when I read it just made me cringe. But he was visited that night by three, he thought they were men. They were three angels. And even though he was in such pain, he invited them into his tent. He prepared a wonderful meal for them. These were strangers. And he said, I will be your host. And in response, Sarah, his wife, the three angels who looked like men, said to Abraham, for your goodness, for your kindness, for your mercy, your wife shall bear a son. Sarah overheard this. She laughed. God is asking, why is she laughing? Because she looked and saw three men. She didn't see three angels. How would these people know? She was 90 years old already. How could they possibly know that she would conceive? But they did. So I think reading this parsha, that part of it focuses on giving and receiving hospitality. We can learn a lot from the other part of justice and how we cannot always be pig-headed. But perhaps in this last bit of parsha, we can learn to receive what we have been given by prior generations. They gave it to us graciously. They gave us the religion to follow. They gave us this synagogue. They gave us thousands of synagogues across the world. They wouldn't be here had it not been for prior generations. And it really becomes our responsibility to offer it gently to those who will come after us. Shabbat Shalom. If you would please turn to page 586 and rise for the Alenu. Jeannie, would you join me up here, please? When the Alenu is over, I will close the parachot, and then I'll ask you to close this while I close that. Okay? Alenu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'ateit gadola le'otzeh breshit שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגור עלינו ככל המונה ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושינה עוזו בגבוהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו את מלכנו את זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבותה את לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. Page 588 in the middle, please join me, starting with, For you spread out the heavens. For you spread out the heavens and established the earth. Your majestic abode is in the heavens above, and your mighty presence is in the loftiest heights. You are our God, and there is none else. In truth, you are our sovereign without compare, as is written in your Torah. Know then this day and take it to heart, that Adonai is surely God in the heavens above and on the earth below. There is none else. Page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, O Shemo echad. Please be seated. Earlier, as Frank and I were trying to figure out what we could do without Bobby, because Bill doesn't know those parts, we decided that we would not do Oseh Shalom tonight. I'm just giving you a heads up. It is two-part harmony, and Jeannie has not sung that before. And since I'm going home with her tonight, I thought I wouldn't put her on the spot about it. Every Friday for the past 19 months, I have chanted El Malei Rachamim in honor of those who have died from COVID-19. Not just those here in the United States, but around the world. We pray for all those people, their families, their souls. And we do it by chanting El Malei Rachamim. Jeannie and I just came back from New Mexico, where the Native American population has been decimated, absolutely decimated by COVID. This is for all of them. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Baromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tacha Kanfei HaShekhinah Im Kedoshim Atiharim Kezohar Akiyah Masirim Lanishmot Yakireino Shalchu Le'olamam Bal harachamim, harachamim. Yasti rembesefter kinafav li'olamim. V'yitzror Bitzror hachayim et nishmatam. Adonai hu nachalatam. V'yanu b'shalom hamishkavam. V'nomar Amen. If you are in a period of Shiva, the first 7 days after someone's passing, please let us know. Judy, is there anyone? Okay. Anyone here? I will then add the name Robert Diskin, who passed yesterday. He was an uncle of Jackie Fletcher Horowitz. May his memory always be for a blessing. We are in a period of Shloshim for anyone, 30 days. Actually, at this time of year, during this past year, we remember the following who have passed within the past 365 days. Zelda Abbas, Richard Eggers, Joel Kellner, Daniel Jacob Horowitz, Emilia Gress, Marcia Manishin, Irma Schiller, Phyllis Blooming, Daniel Joseph Middleton, Larry Kramer, David Yarborough, Sylvia Cart, Rossi Davis, Laura Rosignac Rosen, Louis Jutsi, Michael Bernard, and Annette Carter. We also remember from previous years who passed at this time during this week. We remember Kenneth R. Charon Jr., Jean Brown. May their memories always be a blessing. Are there any other names you wish to add? I ask you, please join me, rise, so that as a community of one, we remember those who have passed, we honor them, we thank them, and we do so by reciting the Mourner's Kaddish found on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei olmaya. Yitborach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yit hadar, v'yit halev, v'yit halal, shemed kudesha barechu. Le'elat min kol brichata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'ama v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imrama, u'yaseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Please be seated. Judy, as our board president, do you have some announcements you would like to make?
Of course. First, I'd like to thank you and Frank for always being up there and leading services, and for Jeannie and Bill for filling in for the shoes of folks who weren't here. We really appreciate you, putting you on the spot at the last minute. Sunday at 10 o'clock, there'll be a dedication service in the Memorial Garden with memorial plaques for those who we've lost in the last year. There was an email sent yesterday with a vote for members of the Rabbi Selection Committee. Please look for it and put in your vote. It's, we need the input of everyone in the congregation. Hold the date, December 12th. It's a Sunday at 2 o'clock. There'll be a joint sisterhood congregation presentation by Neil Rabinowitz of the Secure Community Network here in Atlanta on situational awareness and countering an active threat. It's a really good program. I've seen both of them on webinars. I think you'll enjoy it. I want to thank Officer Mendez for being here with us, and every time you put on the uniform. And Barry started out with a public service announcement about onions. I'm going to end with a public service announcement about boosters. For those of you who have been living in a hole for the past 2 days, CDC signed off approval for boosters for those who received Moderna and J&J boosters, so make your appointment and go get your next shot.
Thank you so much. I will be leading the memorial service in the Memorial Garden on Sunday at 10 a.m. I would invite you all to join us in supporting those who are being remembered. I would like to remember someone whose birthday was a few days ago, Mike Uwanowski. Denise, I'd like to wish you a happy birthday again. It is today. And tomorrow, Jacob Duff has a birthday. We send all of you best wishes. May you live to at least 120. And in some of your cases, bear children after 90. Let's close with Yivarechecha. I would ask you one last time tonight to rise physically and or spiritually for the priestly blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May the Lord shed light upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May Adonai lift up your face, shine upon it, and grant you peace. V'yasem lecha shalom. Please be safe. Shabbat Shalom. We will look forward to seeing you next Friday evening. Shabbat Shalom.